التقرير المالي عندما يتابع الإنسان حساباته الفردية قد يجد الأمر شاقاً ويحتاج إلى الكثير من الوقت والجهد، وقد يضطر إلى جمع الإيصالات وكشوفات الحسابات وتسليمها للمحاسب الذي قد يتقاضى أجراً كبيراً مقابل ترتيبها وتنظيمها. لكن الأمر يختلف تماماً عندما نتحدث عن حسابات مؤسستين تحتويان على 8 حسابات مصرفية يدخل إليها آلاف التبرعات وتعمل في اتجاهات متعددة: إرسال أموال إلى الخارج، دفع تكاليف مشاريع بناء ضخمة، إدارة القروض من الجالية وإليها، ومتابعة عشرات العمليات المالية اليومية. هنا تصبح المهمة صعبة وبالغة التعقيد، وتحتاج إلى فريق كامل أو إلى أنظمة إلكترونية دقيقة لضبطها. ومع ذلك فإن الجالية المعطاءة التي تهتم بالعمل الإسلامي وتعتبره واجباً عليها لا تخلو من رجال يقولون بثقة أنا لها. ومن هؤلاء الرجال الاستاذ سامر عيسى، المحاسب الذي تكفل بهذه المهمة المعقدة وتحمل انشغال إدارة المؤسسة وصبر للحصول على الإجابات من الإدارة وأدار الحسابات بكل دقة وأمانة. فله منا كل الشكر وخالص الدعاء على إشرافه المجاني على حسابات المؤسستين، جزاه الله خيراً وكثر من أمثاله، ونستقبله بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. With the pleasure tonight, I present 2025 financial report for the association, share gathering, place and extraordinary reform of support of orphanage and needy. No words can put the hard work that the association does. We do the minimal when it comes to the association. Sayyid Hassan and his team really do a lot of work, and no words can explain really the hard work they do. Now, alhamdulillah, with God's will, this year was a very, very successful year again for the association, especially that they have involved in building this site of the masjid. And among the figures I'm going to show you this evening, they have spent almost $200,000 in improvements cost, which is really a heavy amount and big amount of money to be spent by an entity in a very short time, especially for the future and for our, inshallah, next generation to come. The association have been able to collect $675,000 this financial year. That's only for the orphanage, and majority of the monies came through donations. This slightly improvement from last year. We only about $2,010 more we have collected compared to last year, but of course, considering the economical situation worldwide, and unfortunate war that's happening in other countries has really affected the ability of collecting more than what we really expected. We were all expecting close to $750,000 of donations to the orphanage. We have not achieved the target, but alhamdulillah, shukr, still very well off, better than last year. And among these $675,000 being collected, the entity successfully transferred $622,000 to the orphanage. It's just not a figure, it's not just the $622,000. If you look at the faces behind this $622,000, it's just amazing. Hundreds and if not thousands of families have benefited from those donations. 92% of collected monies were utilized for the cause of the entity. With all those monies paid, we still got about $52,000 in surplus in that account for the orphanage. So that's to do with the orphanage. And by the way, orphanage is the GR registered, so anyone that donates towards the orphanage account can utilize the tax invoice that the team can provide them that could be used for tax return purposes, and they can get some share of those amounts back when they do their tax return. Now, in relation to Al-Ghari funeral services, we have seen a little bit of downturn compared to last year, but last year being a newly established idea, a lot of funds, I think a lot of people would have bought heaps of graves at the very beginning. So we have been seeing a lot of repayments being made towards the graves. So we had $177,000 called back for the graves. And the entity paid back the cemetery $316,000. Being non-for-profit association, being non-for-profit services, the entity is in deficit by $139,000. Deficit is not in negativity way, but we have paid off some of the debts that we had incurred when the entity signed contract with the graveyard or the cemetery. So that's to do with the Al-Ghari funeral services. Now, the balance of the donations received, including the school and of course including the masjid itself, we received $441,000 in this fund in that year. Now, the entity's year, just for the records, is 1st of January every year till 31st of December every year. So that those 12 months, we have received $441,000 worth of donations for the masjid and the other activities that the entity takes. Now, out of those monies, we have spent $313,000. Of course, part of that $313,000 expenditure is the extension of the masjid that we are in now. Alhamdulillah, I haven't been here for a while, it looks beautiful. Now, with all those details, we're still in surplus by $128,000. So the entity have another $128,000 to spend at the discretion, of course, of the committee members. Now, to do with the entity's financial position, overall financial position, we are way better off than last year. Alhamdulillah, we're about $320,000 better off compared to last year. And of course, I cannot emphasize enough of the hard work that the community really doing behind the scene for this noble project. Now, we have current assets of $541,000. That includes cash in accounts and assets that can be transferred to cash within the coming 12 months if needed. Non-current assets, for example, the buildings that we have is about $2.8 million, round figure. That's $2.8 million, of course, includes the three different titles of the assets that being bought, especially recently we had increment of one asset, further one asset, if I'm not mistaken. And total assets of the company is $3.34 million. That's $327,000 increment compared to last year. Now, with the current liabilities that we have that the entity might be called upon, and the coming 12 months is $957,000. Among this $557,000 is, of course, the big chunk of this money goes to the graveyard, and of course, majority of the money goes to the property that the entity purchased. So they are not debts. They are debts, but they're not debts that we have consumed. They are debts that are coming in the future. So of course, they are asset-backed debts. They are. And of course, non-current liabilities, especially from committee members, I think they usually goes towards the Qard al-Hasana, is about $428,000. So net assets, net liabilities that we have is $1.385 million. So net position of the entity after paying everything, and of course, after deducting all the loans that might get called upon, is about $1.954 million. Once again, there's a huge increment, about 15% increment compared to last year. Now, the entity also have secured, of course, once again, thanks to the committee members, they have secured government grants of close to $100,000 worth of grants that they had applied for, and that's approved and being handed over to the entity. Now, in relation to some of the rules that apply towards especially the orphanage, Dar al-Aitam. That's registered as a DGR. So any donations made to that entity, you can request the association or the members to provide you with the receipt of your donation, and that donation can be utilized against your income end of the year. And you can speak to your accountant or accountants, and they can, of course, take that donation into account. And to add further to this point, the taxation rules in relation to obtaining receipts from entities like the orphanage. Of course, you need to you have to have given some monies or something with money equivalent value, and that has to be paid without expectation of any return. It's not like I pay $100 today and tomorrow I expect to get paid $80 back. It's not. So it has to be money given and not called back upon to the entity. And once that happens and you obtain a receipt, you can definitely, of course, claim those amounts. And depends, subject to, that takes us to the next point of how does this work. A lot of people think or they assume that if I pay $1,000 donation, I'll get $1,000 back from the government. No, this is not how it works. Otherwise, then the government is paying the donation, not you. So the way it really works is that if I pay $1,000 donation, subject to how much I'm earning a year, I have just put a small example for our understanding purposes. So let's say if there's a taxpayer, which is usually the case, but on $100,000 a year, and he or she does not donate any amounts to the association, they will be up for tax bill of $22,788. If we get the same example, but they are donating $10,000 to the orphanage, their income has dropped now from $100,000 to $90,000. They will be taxed on $90,000. That way, they will be saving $3,200 in their tax return. So you give $10,000, you get $3,200 back from the government, of course, subject to your tax brackets and subject to your annual income. And look, you can save up to 45% of what you give. Individuals with high income earners, the individuals with high incomes, they can save up to 45% of what they give. They give $10,000, they get $4,500 back from the government. So it's a very good program, and not just saving in tax, you're also helping families back home or anywhere that the entity sees fit. Now, with all these details, we have in the screen you can see the entity has different accounts for different purposes. I highly encourage all of us to contribute to this noble cause. We do minimal work. We work, and the entity really does a lot of work behind the scene. And those account details are there for you to donate, please. And I'm sure this entity and the orphanage need our help. Alhamdulillah, shukr, we are privileged to an extent that, you know, we have income, we can eat, we can do what we need to do, but a lot of people are not in our position. And I think by us giving back to the society, our kids, our next generation will see how things are done. And we cannot encourage donations enough. We always need donations. And with this, I finish my presentation. I thank you for listening to me. It's always good to see many familiar faces in the crowd. I'm thankful for the association to give us the opportunity to help them with this noble cause and in their thawab. Thank you so much for listening to me. مع السلامة. شكرا. الله يسلمك. رحمة الله عليك. الله يسلمك.